With the pop of a baby food jar, the quiet breaks, just for a moment, into something like magic. Two cats come flying through the catio, fast and sure, as if they've practiced this sprint 1,000 times. Their paws strike the ground so softly you can barely hear them. But the cats themselves, that's another story. A loud, delighted yowl cuts through the air, bold and impossible to miss, and right behind it comes a smaller voice, a softer meow that follows like an echo. The first voice belongs to Barq, a cat who, these days, makes his opinions known at full volume. The second belongs to Chandni, smaller, quieter, and almost always close by. If Barq is the comet, Chandni is the star that trails behind, steady, faithful, and bright in her own way. They reach the caregiver's hands at nearly the same time. Barq rises onto his back legs, stretching tall, peering into the open jar like an inspector checking the day's shipment. Chandni presses close at his side, shoulder to shoulder, sharing the moment with a kind of calm devotion. And if you didn't know them, if you hadn't met them before this scene, you might think this is just a cute routine, just two cats who really love treats. But what you're watching is the end of a much longer story. A story about fear, about patience, about borrowed bravery, and about the quiet ways love can lead the way, especially for the ones who start out unsure of everything. When Barq first arrived at the sanctuary, he didn't come in like a hero. He didn't march into the room, tail high, demanding a pension. Barq arrived like a question. He was the kind of cat who stood back and watched, the kind who stayed just far enough away to feel safe, because people were uncertain. Not dangerous, exactly, at least not here, but unfamiliar in a way that made his body stay tense, his ears alert, his eyes always calculating distance. And shyness is complicated. In a shelter environment, shy animals are often the ones who disappear in plain sight. They don't rush the front of the kennel. They don't press their face into the bars begging for contact. They wait. They shrink. They hope no one asks too much of them too fast. And when adopters walk by looking for that instant spark, the confident cats, the social cats, the lap cats, the shy ones are the ones people overlook. That's why sanctuaries like this exist, not just to house animals, but to hold them long enough for something important to happen. Trust. Barq was safe at the sanctuary, but safety was only the first step. Barq was placed in Cat World, a home between homes, a space designed for hundreds of cats, shifting day by day, each carrying their own story. Cat World has its own rhythm: feeding times, nap times, window times, play times. And it has its own geography: soft beds, tunnels, climbing towers, ledges and perches high above the floor. Barq chose the high ground. He found perch where he could see everything: the other cats moving through their routines, the caregivers coming and going, the world below him always in view. From up there, Barq wasn't aloof, he wasn't cold, he was careful. He watched hands, he watched faces, he watched footsteps, and whenever someone tried to get too close too quickly, his body would tighten. His message was clear: not yet. And the caregivers listened. Barq was placed in Cat World, a home between homes, a space designed for hundreds of cats shifting day by day, each carrying their own story. Cat World has its own rhythm: feeding times, nap times, window times, play times. And it has its own geography: soft beds, tunnels, climbing towers, ledges and perches high above the floor. Barq chose the high ground. He found a perch where he could see everything. The other cats moving through their routines, the caregivers coming and going,
Good boy, Barq.
the world below him always in view.
You're getting it.
From up there, Barq wasn't aloof. He wasn't cold. He was careful. He watched hands. He watched faces. He watched footsteps. And whenever someone tried to get too close too quickly, his body would tighten. His message was clear: not yet. And the caregivers listened. One caregiver in particular noticed something about Barq. Not what he feared, but what he wanted. He preferred the company of other cats. He seemed calmer when he could observe without pressure, and he was curious, even if he didn't want to admit it. Her name was Rania. Rania didn't try to win Barq over with force or urgency. She didn't crowd him. She didn't reach for him. She simply arrived with consistency, a routine, a calm voice, and one small thing that turned out to be a key: baby food. It's a favorite treat for many cats, soft, rich, irresistible. The kind of reward that can make even the shyest animal pause and reconsider. Rania began offering it on a spoon, not right up to Barq's face, not close enough to trap him, just close enough to invite him. At first, Barq only leaned forward to smell. Then he leaned back again, unsure. Rania stayed still. Day after day, the spoon appeared. Day after day, the jar opened with that small, unmistakable pop. And slowly, so slowly you might not notice if you weren't watching, Barq's world began to change. Because the jar opening meant something now. The spoon meant something now. It meant good things happen, and you don't have to be afraid for them to happen. At first, he climbed down only one step, then 2 steps, then he lingered. And then, one day, Barq did something no one expected. He announced himself. A full-volume yowl from the top of his perch, bold, dramatic, and unmistakably eager. It echoed off the walls of Cat World like a declaration. I'm here. I want it. I'm coming. And he did. He ran. For the first time, Barq wasn't just watching life from above. He was stepping into it. Not long after Barq began to soften, another cat arrived from a shelter. Her name was Chandni. Chandni wasn't as shy as Barq had been when he first came in, but she was cautious in her own way. Where Barq sought the safety of height, Chandni sought the safety of hiding places. She found small corners, quiet nooks, spaces where she could observe without being seen. When Chandni entered Cat World, she didn't rush out to explore. She watched. And in the room, there was one presence that stood out immediately: Barq. By then, Barq had changed. He had gained confidence. He had learned that hands could offer more than fear. He had started to enjoy affection, on his terms. And within that room, Barq had a reputation. Rania, half laughing, called him the boss. Chandni, half his size, peeked out from her hiding place to study him. Barq didn't rush her. He didn't chase her out. He didn't challenge her. He simply existed, confident, steady, loud when he wanted to be, calm when he didn't. And to a nervous newcomer, that kind of steadiness can feel like a lighthouse. Then came a moment that didn't look dramatic, but was everything. Chandni came out of hiding. Slowly at first, testing the air, checking the distance. Barq was nearby, resting, relaxed. Chandni approached him like a question. Is it safe to be close to you? And then, without hesitation, she snuggled right up to him. A small body pressing into a larger one, as if she had finally found the right place to land. Rania watched it happen and later described it simply. She came out of hiding, and she snuggled right up to him. Barq didn't flinch. He didn't move away. He made room. And just like that, a friendship began. Not built on grand gestures, but built on a quiet yes. In the days that followed, Chandni began to orbit Barq. If Barq moved to a sunny spot, Chandni followed. If Barq approached a caregiver, Chandni stayed a little closer than she would have alone. If Barq accepted a chin scratch, Chandni watched, storing the memory. This is something animals do, especially those who have been unsure of people. They learn by watching the brave ones. Barq became Chandni's role model. Not because he was perfect, not because he never hesitated, but because he had proof in his body. You can be scared and still choose to trust. And Chandni borrowed that courage. At first, she stayed behind him like a shadow, present but careful. Then she began to step forward, a little, then more. And then came the baby food jar. Barq's yowl burst out instantly, full volume, excited, proud. It was his signature move now. Chandni's smaller meow followed right after, not trying to overpower him, not trying to compete, just joining. The two of them ran together. Barq rose up on his back legs to peer inside the jar, and Chandni pressed close at his side. For her, this wasn't just about the treat. It was about belonging. It was about sharing a moment she once would have been too scared to approach. Barq taught Chandni the ropes of cat world. He taught her where the warmest sun patches landed in the afternoon. He showed her how to wiggle into the best spot when wet food was served, not with aggression, but with confidence. He showed her that the caregivers weren't unpredictable, that their voices could be gentle, that their hands could mean comfort. And in return, Chandni taught Barq something too. Not with lessons the way he taught her, but with presence. Because Chandni was small and cautious and quietly devoted. And Barq, who once kept his distance from everyone, now had someone who always wanted to be near. Someone who didn't demand anything from him, just companionship. And that kind of companionship can soften even the loudest cat. It would be easy to say this story is only about two cats, but that wouldn't be true, because the people mattered. Rania and the caregivers didn't rush Barq. They didn't punish his fear. They didn't force affection. They offered something more powerful than affection: choice. They created an environment where trust could grow naturally, where a cat could step forward, step back, and step forward again without consequence. That's what shy animals need most: time, space, and consistent kindness. Barq wasn't fixed overnight. Chandni didn't become brave instantly. But day after day, the sanctuary gave them a quiet promise. You are safe here, even when you're scared. Now, when Rania opens a jar of baby food, two cats come running. Barq, loud and proud, announces himself like it's his stage. Chandni follows close behind, her smaller voice tucked into his bigger one. Barq stands on his back legs, peering into the jar, and Chandni presses at his side, sharing the moment. Sometimes, if you watch carefully, Barq shifts just a little. Not stepping away, just making room. For Chandni. For the cat who once hid in corners. For the cat who learned bravery by borrowing his. For Chandni, love looks like a safe place to land. It looks like trust built slowly in small moments and in quiet companionship. And for Barq, love looks like something he didn't always know how to do: letting someone close. Not in grand gestures, not in dramatic declarations, but in simple, everyday choices. Sharing a sun patch, sharing a routine, sharing a spoon. Their love story isn't written in big cinematic moments. It's written in something just as sweet. A little extra love and care from the people around them, and the joy of finding a friend. Sometimes the bravest thing a shy heart can do is step down from the perch. And sometimes the kindest thing a brave heart can do is make room beside it.